Hey guys, welcome to Brian's Man Cave. So today I'm going to be doing some more streaming. I seem to be on this kind of Wednesday pattern right now. For me it's Wednesday, what day is it today? It's the 11th? Oh geez, it's already halfway through April 11. Yeah, so I'm going to be streaming some more, I want to do some more Commodore 64 stuff. So lately I've been doing a lot of Zelda. If you've been watching any of my streams, you can see I did some Legend of Zelda, and I just my last stream actually I completed the first Legend of Zelda, which was a lot of fun, and this time I thought I'd take a break because I've been kind of going between Zelda 1 and Zelda 2, and like I've said before, I've been kind of also doing a Zelda, well, Link to the Past. I like to call it Zelda 3, but it's on the Super Nintendo. And I've been not streaming that one. I've just been playing it for fun. So I'm kind of like Zelda'd out for now. I just want to take a little break from it and try some more Commodore 64. So let's see who we got in the chat right now. We got Rex Warden. How you doing? Steve Rasmussen. Pad 4 please. That's cool. He knows what game this is. Billy O. Do these taxi drivers expect big tips? Unfortunately, they don't get any tips. That's the fun part about this game. There's no tips. So, if you're not familiar with Space Taxi is, I'm more familiar with it on the Commodore 64, but I believe it's been on a few other systems. Mostly computers, I believe. I don't think it's been on an actual like console. I don't think it was on like Coleco or anything like that. Or I think they were all on the computers like Amiga, Atari ST, things like that. But my experience with Space Taxi was on the Commodore 64. So that's when I played it, and it was one of those games where it had talking in it. And I only had a few games that had talking in it, and I was always amazed by it. Because, as you can imagine back then, a lot of games didn't talk. So when you came across one, most of the time they didn't say much. Like you had, like for the Commodore 64, most of them were on the Commodore 64 for me. So it was games like Ghostbusters, where when you booted it up, it said Ghostbusters, and then throughout the game it would be like you slimed me, or like little tiny things like that. Then there was Impossible Mission, which is probably one of my most favorite games on the Commodore 64, and I've done a video on it before as well. And that one has a bit of talking. And Space Taxi, which is another one. So there's a lot of these games interwoven into the Commodore library that have speech. And my only other experience with speech games would be like the IntelliVoice for the Intellivision, like Bomb Squad or B-17 Bomber, some of these other games. So this was always a special game because it had that little element of, it can talk, and it was just different than what I was usually used to. And it's fun. So let's just get this game going. I just need to reset it because I think I just got it booted up here. And yeah, so that's the Space Taxi. You can see it's kind of a very rough drawing of a space taxi. And so the premise of this game, or what you're trying to do, is essentially you're picking up a dude who calls for a taxi and wants to go to a specific pad. Pads being the areas you can land on. And once you've picked up enough people and you've brought them to their pads, then you can go up to the next level. So I'm only a one-player game, so I'm going to pick a 1 here. And this is the interesting thing too. This kind of reminds me of things like ColecoVision, where you actually have like shifts, or kind of like this is beginner, intermediate, expert type of idea. So you can go with morning shift, which is I think like 12 levels, and then day shift I think is like 24 or something. I can't remember. Maybe it's just the complexity of them. It's been a while. And then you can do random. Random, it'll just throw whatever level at you. That's really fun when you just feel like diving into this game after you've played it lots of times and you just want to, randomly pick a level. So let's just start at the morning shift because, yeah, I don't know how well I'm going to do here. This is called Short and Sweet. You can see yourself driving into this level. So that's the speech there. Hey, taxi. Now they've done a good job of actually putting in the bottom there what the guy says. Not that most of the time it matters, but when he does call for the pad, you might not catch it. So it's good that it, you know, it's going to say, yeah, so he wants to go up because there is no pads on this level. There's only one. So I'm going to fly up and go to the next level. But it is handy. Sometimes you don't catch what he says, so then you need to read it. So he said pad 1, please. If you do land on the if you do land on the wrong pad, he will tell you, or repeat himself, essentially. Kind of like in an angry voice, he'll be like, pad 1, you know, kind of like that idea. Okay, so I got lucky that he respawned. No video. Is there a problem with my streaming? Let me just take a break here and make sure. I just want to make sure that my stream is coming through. Uh-oh. Alright. Something's going on here. I just had someone point out that there's no video. So we gotta find out what's going on here. We got video now? Hopefully we got some video now. That really sucked. Just gonna check the chat. I had this set up before, but I think something messed with my settings. Okay, I'm just gonna wait a minute. The glories of live stream. Luckily, you didn't miss much. You just missed the first level where I just kind of go to a pad and then go back up. So it looks like we got the screen up now. Excellent. You can see in the chat there. It's always handy to have the chat going. Alright. So I'm just going to get back to my game there. Sorry about that. So we got oh, got our taxi back. So he wants to go to pad 2, so we're going to take it down to pad 2. Yeah, that must have looked pretty bad, only seeing like a blank screen for that first part. Alright, so we're going to go to pad 3. Yeah, I don't know, like, I think because I've been doing a lot of Nintendo stuff, so my OBS has been set up to capture the Nintendo screen, so it probably didn't recognize the Commodore screen. Which is a pain in the butt. There we go. So the first 3 levels are pretty simple. I mean, there's not a lot to them. It kind of trains you. I mean, each level just trains you into what you're going to be expecting in the later levels. So this one is just kind of getting you to go into these kind of odd areas. But there's no, like, obstacles or anything I can run into. And then you get to learn the physics of how the taxi moves. Like, you go up, down, left, right. Now luckily it doesn't do that weird thing that some games do where they reverse left and right. Things like Jupiter Lander, I think it is, or like there's a few games where they kind of mess up the way things are controlled, so you kind of got to get used to it. This one's actually pretty straightforward. I mean, you push up for up, push right for right. I mean, it works pretty well. Nothing confusing about it. gotta go up. So you can see at the bottom, you can see in the bottom left, you can see all the men I have, the little cars in the purple strip there. That's how many men I have. Taxi trader. This one. This one's just all about maneuvering yourself without hitting anything. And then below my purple strip there is where my money is. That's how much money I've earned. So I've earned $73.28. Not bad. Whoa! Okay, I accidentally hit the pad without... so when you come towards a pad, you have to hit the button to release your landing gears. If you don't do that, you will rip right through it, like I just did. You can't just land on a pad on your tires. You have to have these landing pads. Part of the strategy of this game is to know when to drop those pads. Now, when those pads are deployed, you can't move the vehicle. Like, you can't, like, once it's deployed, it gets really difficult to maneuver the vehicle. I think it only lets you go up and down. So and then if you look over here, you'll see right beside 2, there's a pad with an F in it. And it has a little oil can thing. That's your fuel. So right above where it says "Hey Taxi" in the middle there, at the bottom, I have a fuel gauge. So when that fuel gauge runs out, obviously you lose a man. But you can go over to that fuel pad and fuel up. So fuel is used the more you use your thrusters. So if you just let you know, the physics take over and push you in the direction you want to, you're fine. But the more you use your thrusters, like pushing up, down, left, right, and you see that little flame thing, the more fuel you're going to use. So I'm just going to go ahead and get some gas. And of course it costs you money. That's your downside. If you don't have the money for it, well, you're kind of into trouble. You're going to have to lose a car. Here's where it always gets tricky. You have to get up there and not hit the top, because everything you touch in this game, except for the pads, are lethal. So if you hit anything, pretty much, it kills you. If you land on a pad without your landing pads, it kills you. It's one of those games where pretty much everything kills you. Oh boy, okay, I can go up now. I'm sure when I used to be really good at this game, I would be able to do this without having to fuel up. You know, you'd be fast enough to get all the pads without dying. Okay, so this is an interesting level. This one I remember, like, if you can get to that pad 1 before the rest of the pads develop, he'll say up. And as long as you don't kill him. Like that. After that, you're pretty much, oops, screwed. Because that's another thing. If you touch the guy, he will die. So this is kind of an interesting level where if you can go fast enough and you get the guy before these pads spawn, you can clear the level really fast. But if you're slow, like I'm being right now, you kind of have to do all of them. It's all about being able to maneuver your car. Here's where it gets hard, because you got to kind of go through there without hitting him. Because if you touch him, he dies. Of course, he always wants to go all the way around to the other side. There we go. And you'll notice on this level there's no gas can, so... Oh, crap. If you get hit, or if you don't get go fast enough and run out of gas, you lose a man. Yeah, of course he wants to go to the other side. I'm pretty sure they have to be delivered or appear on at least each pad at one point before they'll say up. So he's very 8, yeah, I figure. And then possibly show up on 9 and then tell me to go up to the up. I'm just going to take off just in case he spawns on 8. And I crush him with my car. Right, there he is. I'm just going to go carefully over here. Oh! I guess the other thing is, I grew up using the Atari joystick for this. So playing this on a PC, I'm using a gamepad, and just not used to it. Although some people do prefer the gamepads over the joystick. But this is the kind of weird thing that I'm using. It's a gamepad I picked up a while ago. It's got a lot of buttons on it. Oh yes, it's ping pong level. This one you have to be careful because the ping pong will kill you. I'm just going to wait for it to pass by and then hopefully get down there and pick them up. Move over there. Oh shoot. You have to control your speed too. You go too fast, you won't be able to stop in time. And you'll definitely kill yourself. Alright. Perfect. Whew. Teleports. Oh, this one. Okay, so you go into here, and it will take you to a different place every time. Unfortunately, you don't have any control over this, so it's all hit and miss. Like that. So let's see, I'm at $133.67. Pretty good. Considering this game was made in the 80s. So, like, $133 in the 80s was, like, a lot of money compared to today's time. I mean, where I live in Canada, you go into a taxi cab and it starts now at like just a little, I think it's over $4 or $5 or something the moment you sit in the cab. And just to like drive down the street, you're already at like $20. It's insane. Although now that we have Uber, and you know, it's all these ride-sharing services that are kind of competing with taxis. Now there's an idea. A modern version of this called Space Uber. Could it happen? It just doesn't have the excitement. I guess they never predicted that when this game came out, though. Oh, puzzler. I know this game, this one's confusing. Yeah. So you have to find the thing that's going to open the door. Yeah, Uber space. That's right, Rex. So this one you have to really worry about running out of fuel, because if you don't know the right way to open the door, you spend a lot of time searching. So you see as I hit these things, they all open up a different doorway. Ah! I'm almost dead. As you can see, I just landed and all of a sudden doors are opening and closing. Pad 2. Crap! Game over. There we go. So let's see. So I did morning shift. Let's try day shift. I don't know if there's a difference right away. Oh yeah, okay, crossfire. There is. Yeah, so Rex Warden is saying that it's a neat game, but you'd find yourself getting tired of it. Yeah, that's true. I think a lot of these earlier games were in danger of that happening, because they just weren't built the same way that games are built today. Oh, I just got shot on the pad. That sucked. I mean, you have to think, like, I remember playing on the Commodore 64. I'd play this for about 30 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, I don't know. I didn't really count. And then I'd switch to another game, then I'd switch to another game, then I'd switch... And it's the same thing as when I would play Atari or anything else. I'd swap games so many times. Shoot. And, you know, that's just the way it was in the past. Like, I know a lot of the games today are designed to keep you playing and playing and playing and playing and playing, but a lot of the old retro games really weren't designed that way. Like, you could easily get bored of them. You'd have to swap games at some point. But I'd always come back to this game. Like, oftentimes when I wanted to play Commodore 64, this was one of my go-to games. This one, and Ghostbusters, and Impossible Mission. All favorites. Jumpman. Cars left. Like this level's making an example of me. Pretty good. Oh jeez. I just lost control of the car. I just like pushed up for like a second and just flew out of control. I'm also watching the chats. Rex is saying he can't be drinking because he's heavily armed. And Billy O is asking him, why are you heavily armed? That's what I want to know. Yeah, Steve Rasmussen is saying, like, oh, this one, this reminds me of Jupiter Orlando. Yeah, Steve Rasmussen is making a good point that today's games are designed to keep you paying and paying and paying. So, the longer you play, the more you pay. You don't just buy a game and that's the end of it. You buy a game, you buy the shell of the game, and then you're constantly paying to upgrade it and add more to it or whatever. Also, not to mention you're always updating its, you know, all the broken parts of it. You have to fix the game. I keep hearing that about the Switch. A lot of the games that come out on the Switch are, you know, they don't work properly right off the shelf. You need all these updates and patches. But then at the same time, they could just be the basic of the game, and then you've got to pay money to get yourself going. Oh, jeez. Oh! So Rex's reason for being heavily armed is because America. So that's an interesting answer. Because America. I don't know. Whoa, I'm dying like badly. Okay, let me try this one again. Cause sure. Let me try that one again. Wasn't doing too well on that one. Crazy. Jeez. This one's difficult. I mean, those crossfire things are just coming right at you. I just lost 2 cars right there. I haven't even done anything yet. I literally just started the game. I already got blown out of the sky twice. Yeah, this is pretty hard. Oh hey, Simon Belmondo, thanks for joining in. Decided to take a break from Zelda today, as you've noticed. I'm playing a lot of Zelda lately. I don't want people to get the impression that I'm just a Nintendo kid. I didn't grow up with Nintendo, really. I grew up with Commodore 64 and Atari and Intellivision. And as much as I like Nintendo, I played a lot of different systems when I was a kid, so I just want to play a lot of my favorite games. I don't want to just be like only playing Nintendo. Even though I probably still play some more Nintendo, Sega, Genesis. I got a lot of ideas, a lot of options to play. Spread it out a bit, make it interesting. Got a bunch of other Commodore 64 games that I used to play that I've been thinking about trying to you know, stream that one or jeez. That one was hard. So Simon Belmondo is asking what this game is about. So, I mean, pretty much what it is, like the name says, you're a taxi. So these guys will show up at a pad, what they're calling a pad, which is like an area. Usually has a number beside it. And you have to go and pick them up there. And then they'll tell you where they want to go, just like a taxi. So this guy wants to go to pad 4, so I just take him over to, take him over to pad 4. Use my landing gears. And there you go. Now the challenge is to maneuver your taxi without hitting anything, because everything you hit will kill you, including those falling stars right now. This is where this game gets complex. If you know, in the beginning when I started playing the earlier levels, there was nothing there, and the game was fairly easy. Now I'm playing the intermediate levels, and the game just gets harder and harder. Like, you literally cannot touch anything except the pad. And you can see I have a fuel gauge, so if you run out of fuel, you will die. And I think I need to get some fuel because I'm running really low. My fuel gauge is like dangerously low. Even though it's costing me money, I need to worry about that because the only other way to refuel is to kill yourself. You don't want to do that. Or let your fuel run out and then die, and either way you lose a taxi, and that's not good. I also didn't mention on the very right hand side is it's a number that seems to be going down. Like it's at 6 right now, 5. That's how much you get paid when you deliver a person. So it's kind of backwards from a taxi. Because in a real taxi, it's going up and up and up. And so if the taxi cab takes a detour, you pay for that detour. In this one, the number is going down, so you gotta get them there as fast as possible. It's not about taking the scenic route and racking up the meter on this game. It's the opposite. Alright, Angela's here. I don't know if Angela's ever seen this game before. Whoa. Or even knows what the Commodore 64 is, but Angela's she's a Nintendo 64 fan, I know that. If you've just come in, I'm essentially just driving around picking up people and taking them places. Angela's cool. We've actually worked together in the past, and I think we're going to be working together soon. I heard some news today, so that'll be cool if that happens. I'm gonna pad 4. Oh my god! So what happened there was I landed way too fast. Oh, so Angela's asking what platform this is. So this is actually an old computer game on the Commodore 64, which was an old computer that I grew up with. It's actually a very popular computer. A lot of people had it in the 80s. One of the most popular, I think the most popular computer systems of the day, and probably one of the most highest selling computer systems. And it was more well known for its games than it was for anything else. So even though it had a functional keyboard and had like a lot of applications that could do stuff, it was well known for its games, and it had a lot of great games. So a lot of the games that I grew up with, I learned on this system. And it used primarily used diskettes, but it also had cartridges. And it also had a tape deck. And as you can see, it talks, which was kind of a real big deal back in that day. Oh jeez, I just blew myself up by landing on a pad. That's not cool at all. Okay, well, since I did morning shift, I did day shift. Let's do night shift. I guarantee you I'm going to get screwed over in the very beginning on this one. Oh no, this one. I hate this. So those satellite things, or whatever, radar things that you see, they basically screw up your car. So when you try to maneuver your car around them, it will interfere with the direction, interfere with your propulsion. So it'll speed you up or slow you down. Like, it's a very, very tricky level. You have to literally take it slow. Like, be surprised if I get through this. Like I said, I grew up playing this with an Atari joystick. Like an actual joystick, not a gamepad. We didn't have gamepads back then. Gamepads didn't come until probably, I guess, the time of the Nintendo. And even then, only the Nintendo had one. Or the Sega Master System, but everything else you used a joystick. Oh, Simon's asking if this, if this is emulated or if it's an original. This one's emulated. I have the original. In fact, I did a video, I did a video on this game a little whiles back. So if you dig into my videos, if you go into my channel and you search for it, you'll find I did a video on it where I actually played it from the original Commodore computer. And but when I do live streaming, right now the only setup I have, I can only really do an emulation. I don't have a capture card, so I can't actually use a proper system. But I mean, for what it is, it works. Ew. I'm not doing well at all. I think I'm gonna have to redo this level. Start from the beginning. See if I can do this. After this one, I'll try the random shift. So I think this has 24 levels. I think that's the way it works. I think. Because there is a 24-hour time, and I think that means each hour is a level, so I think there's 24... It's like the weakest car ever. Touches anything, it dies. I can feel it, like it's fighting with me when I'm near those radar type things. There we go. And like I talked about earlier, you gotta watch where you're sitting, because if he respawns in, like, underneath your car, he dies. That's not a good thing. You don't want to kill your fare. Just like you don't want to land on your fare. You always gotta land beside him, not on him. That was a close call. I thought I was dead there. Yeah, Simon Belmondo says he's got to play this. Looks interesting. Yeah, it is. I used to play this a lot. It's one of my go-to games for the Commodore 64. I'm not 100% sure what other systems it's been on, but this is probably one of the more popular systems that it was on. You could probably find yourself a Commodore 64 emulator somewhere. And, I mean, finding the ROMs is a little... There's actually a... if you go on Google and put in C64... you'll find a Commodore 64 archive, and they have a lot of games that they tried to archive, and you can download the ROM there. So it's just a case of finding the right kind of emulator that will work on your computer. I have two of them. One doesn't work very well, and then I found this one. So this one actually works really well. And I've done a bunch of videos using this. Whoa, jeez. Didn't pull out my landing gears. I've done a bunch of videos using this emulator. Normally I like to use the real system when I can. But, there's just some games I had from when I was a kid that I don't have anymore on my Commodore, and, the story about that is, around the time, I think, just before I got my Nintendo, my Commodore was starting to fail on me. disk drive was starting to go on me, and I had a whole ton of games, like tons and tons of games. And, you know, it was at that time where Nintendo was out and other systems were out. And, let's just give this one more shot. I think I can do this. I used to be able to do this. And at that point, my mom was like, you know what, maybe you should just sell it, take the money, put it towards something else. And I thought, you know, okay, because I already had it repaired once, and it was becoming obsolete and all that other stuff. I was a kid, I wasn't thinking, and so what I ended up doing was going to a computer store and selling them my Commodore computer itself, and the disk drive, and then all the games that were purchased. Where am I going? Pad 2. So I ended up selling off a lot of my purchased games, but I ended up keeping all the ones that were like burned, or well, copied, I should say, because that was a typical thing that we did back then. Was you would copy games from friends and all that stuff, so whatever games they would have, you would copy them onto a disc, and it was normal back then. I mean, today it's all called, you know, plagiarizing, copywriting, whatever you want to call it, copyright rules, pirating and stuff, but that's what we did. That was normal. We didn't think of it as anything other than, you know, that was normal. Jeez, controlling this car is just nuts. So any games that I actually purchased, like bought from the store, I sold to the store that bought my Commodore. And then I kept all the other ones that were essentially cracked, copied games and stuff. So I still have those ones. But there's a lot of great games I used to have that I don't have anymore, so I'll have to emulate them if I want to play them. So Simon is asking what is my favorite C64 game of all time. Okay, that's gonna be a tricky one, because I'm gonna go between 3 of them. I really love Impossible Mission. That might be probably the one that would be my most favorite. But I also liked Ghostbusters, and a lesser known one called Rags to Riches, which became one of my more replayable games I used to play a whole lot of. And I did a video on that one too, Rags to Riches. If you search that out, it's a really interesting game. It's almost like a simulator. It's not necessarily a game as much as a simulator. And you start off as a homeless bum, and you have to pick up money on the street, get a job, get a haircut, go to school. Like it's really fun, and it's really blocky graphics. Oh, look at that! I completed it. If I don't hit that top piece there. And yeah, I mean, I played that so many times. I learned all the strategy of actually going to beat it, and eventually, you know, your bomb can get robbed and stuff like that. But yeah, it would definitely either be that one or Impossible Mission. I would say would be my favorites. The first Impossible Mission. There was an Impossible Mission 2. But I didn't have it, my friend had it, and I remember borrowing it from him. It's a lot different of a game. Got a lot of similarities to it, but very difficult. Oh, jeez, I touched the end. Steve is saying that Jumpman and Jumpman Jr. is his favorites. I liked them. Jumpman... I always felt that Jumpman is very similar to this game. Similar in the way the levels are formatted. The way that there's, like, you know, you can play, like, the beginner, the intermediate, the advanced, the random. I'm trying to remember how this level goes. You just gotta be very careful. maneuvering yourself around. Yeah, Angela's saying Rags to Riches sounds like so much fun. You should do a search. If you go on my channel, click on my channel and do a search for Rags to Riches or Rags or something like that. You'll probably find it, and you'll see what it's like. It's really fun. It's one of those addictive video games where, and I don't think it was a big title. Like, I don't think it was put out on any other system other than the Commodore 64. Like, the guy who programmed it. And the other thing is that I remember it was sold, like back then. I'm running out of gas. This isn't good. Back then they used to sell a lot of these like compilation kind of, you know, multiple games in one disc type of things. And I remember Rags to Riches was sold with like another game. I think it was Bop and Wrestle or something. Like you had to buy it as like a 2-game thingy. And I borrowed it from a friend. And ever since then, whoa, gee, ah! So let me tell you about this level. What they did was they took the level from the original one and they reversed your car. Oh, so up is down, left is right. And it's very hard. Very hard. Let's do some random for right now. Random. Random 24-hour shift. Okay. Oh, puzzler. Oh, crap. Oddpod. Hey, how's it going, Oddpod? Thanks for coming in on the chat. Playing some Taxi on the Commodore 64. Where do I go? Okay, I gotta go. So I gotta try all these different patterns here. Crud. I seem to keep hitting the edges a lot. As you can see, if you look in the bottom right-hand corner, my money is just going away. The longer it takes for you to get to your fare, the less money you're going to make. Alright. And we're open. Yeah, I've been really considering doing a live cast of Rags to Riches. Only because it is one of my more favorite games. It can be a little dry though, because there's just a lot of walking around, building up money. Crud. This car is very sensitive. Shoot. Pad 3. Oh wait, going the wrong way. Okay. I can do this. Yeah, this is frustrating. It is. Oddpod is saying it looks frustrating. It is. It's meticulous. Like, you really have to control the speed of your car. You really have to tap the buttons, and it's a constant control of your speed. And on top of it, to have to like pick the right button that's going to open up the door. All the while I'm running out of money here. Let's which means I won't get paid. Okay, that didn't help me. And you have to worry about running out of gas. So the longer it takes you to solve the puzzle... That's why they call this level Puzzler. Oh! Can't get to that pad 4. What's going on? No! Angela's saying she wouldn't have the patience for this. Welcome to the world of video games I grew up in. These were your games. Okay, let's try another random level. Hopefully I won't get that one again. Shooting stars. This one's not too difficult. A little frustrating, because, you know, the stars will kill you. Rex is asking if I'm playing a different game next. Well, I am going to think about other Commodore 64 games to play, and even other systems. I've been saying this for a while. As I was doing my Zelda casts, I was saying, you know, I wanted to do this one. And, I also want to do another Atari live play at the viewers' requests. So whoever puts in the chat what game to play, I'll play that game. I did one of those already, and that was a lot of fun, so leaving it up to the viewers to see what game they would like me to play. And I don't know if I'm brave enough to try that with Nintendo. Maybe I will. Wow, so, Oddpod saying the games he remembers playing on the C64 are Theme Park, Captain Planet, Toki, Terminator 2. I've never played any of those. None of those ring a bell for me. They could be a lot of newer games, though. I mean, by the time Terminator 2 came out, Commodore was, where I lived anyways, Commodore 64 was already pretty old. Like I remember playing RoboCop. That's, you know, that's in the 80s. I didn't even know there was a theme park game for Commodore 64. Must have been a late release, or maybe possibly released in England or Europe somewhere, you know, outside of Canada or North America. Because I know the Commodore 64 was a lot more popular over there for a very long time. You know, from what I understand, the personal computers, the computer systems, were a lot more popular and utilized in Europe. And in North America, we were more stuck on the consoles like Atari, ColecoVision, Intellivision, Nintendo, Sega. We had the computers, but they just weren't as popular as the consoles were. This is why in North America, in the 80s, early 80s, we had the video game crash, but in Europe, they didn't really feel it. They didn't really have a video game crash, because they had a lot of the computers that were playing video games, and to them the crash never happened. But for us in the console days, where everything was video game consoles with cartridges, we hit a crash. The Atari crash and Coleco and stuff like that. So So they were still playing great games on the computers like this and this, what is it, the ZX Spectrum or whatever, Atari ST, a lot of video computer systems. Oh, I remember this one. The pads will go away after you have to get off of them really quickly. Okay. Go! Yeah, Oddpod saying he was still playing his in the early 90s. You know, at the time, I believe in the early 90s, I've already probably sold my Commodore 64. Eesh, I'm dying like crazy. And we moved on to like, well, I think that's around the time I bought my Atari Junior. And of course bought my, well, I didn't buy it, my parents bought it, my Nintendo. Getting hard to read and play this at the same time. But yeah, he was saying microcomputers were popular in Europe, while in the US proper PCs were hideously expensive and game consoles. Yeah, and that's true. The earlier PCs in the 80s and 90s were really expensive, and the games on them were yeah. They were crap. And let's just see here. Yeah, and so systems like the Commodore 64 still had better games than some of the PCs, but then most people moved on to the consoles, and they started taking into like Nintendo and Nintendo 64, or not 60, Super Nintendo, I should say, and Sega. So that's where it started to move into, and in Europe, they were all running into the PC. They were still running in computers. So Rex is saying he didn't get a computer until 1998, and he bought it himself. In the 70s and 80s, I just had a 2600 and an NES. That makes sense. I think most of us did. That we had one of the other, maybe two systems. I grew up with the Intellivision, and then got into the Commodore. I got the Commodore 64 a little bit later, and then of course I think I got my Nintendo in the 90s. I don't think I got one right away. Now Rex is saying he still has his first computer. I have to admit, I don't. Taxi bomb. I don't have my original Commodore 64, but I did end up getting another one later on in time. Just like my Intellivision. It's not my Intellivision I had when I was a kid. That one, unfortunately, fell apart. I think I sold the Intellivision at the same time I sold my Commodore. Pretty much for parts. Didn't get much for it either. Oh no! No! Ah. Yeah, strangely enough, even though I sold my Commodore and my Intellivision, I did end up keeping the discs for the Commodore, and for the Intellivision I kept my Donkey Kong game. The only game that I really kept with me. Everything else I sold. I refused to give up the Donkey Kong game. And I think I had an idea in my head that, you know, one day I might own an Intellivision again. Ow. Okay, I'm not winning on this one at all. Ugh. Oh, Rex is saying he never laid his hands on a television, and the only ColecoVision he's seen is the one. Oh. holding on to it for a friend. Never hooked it up or played it. ColecoVision is awesome. I like the ColecoVision. I have mine, but I don't have as many games for it. I got a ton of games for the Intellivision. Yeah, OddPod is saying the taxi's so fragile. It is. It touches anything, it dies. Any part of the taxi that touches anything, it kills it. It just explodes in the air. And like what just happened there is if you come down too fast or you're too close, even if you release your landing pods, you explode. It's the most fragile game I've ever played. Also, if you don't land on the pad properly, if you land too close to the edge, you explode. Rex is saying he has about 20 Intellivision games and the IntelliVoice module. That's what makes it absurd. So you have 20 Intellivision games and the IntelliVoice module, but you don't have an Intellivision? I'm gonna die. Oh, I didn't have a choice there. A chance, I should say. I was screwed. Uh-oh, 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 uh-oh. Grapes. Oh. Oh, geez, Rex. You need to get your hands on an Intellivision. I mean, depending on the games you have, you could probably just, well, I don't know. I'm not sure if it's more expensive to try and get your hands on an Intellivision 2 or just go for an original. I would rather go for the original. The Intellivision 2 is cool because of the interchangeable controller, but that was about it. It did have its limitations, and the Intellivision 2 can't play the Coleco games, not ColecoVision games, but the ones made by Coleco, like Donkey Kong Jr., Venture. The Intellivision 2 can't play those. So probably, if you're going to look for an Intellivision, you should look for an original one, or the Sears Telegames one, or whatever it was called, the Sears one. You know, one of the older ones, if you can find it, without paying a lot of money. I hate this one. He's saying people want way too much money for an Intellivision. Well, that's a shame. I think people are just jumping on the whole retro games are worth money now, I'm going to gouge you. It really sucks. But I think that the Intellivision I have, I bought it probably about 20 years ago. Found it in one of those magazines where people just try and sell their stuff. It was not a magazine, sorry, a newspaper called Penny Saver. I don't know if it still exists today, but just think of something like Craigslist or Kijiji or any of those websites where you go and post your crap on there. So this was like a newspaper that got delivered, and I just happened to be looking through it, and somebody had their Intellivision that they decided to get rid of, that they had at a cottage somewhere, and it was like complete in box with like a ton of games, and I think they only asked for like 20 bucks or something like that. And me being a big Intellivision fan, I had to have it because I haven't had an Intellivision at that point since I sold mine, and I wanted one again so badly. But yeah, I mean, today you go into stores and they want like 80 to 100 bucks for one. And I think I bought a second Intellivision from a Goodwill. Again, a long time ago though. Went into a Goodwill, and I bought one like for $7 or something, $5 to $7. And it was just the Intellivision itself, no games or anything with it. and I knew what it was, obviously, and I grabbed it for sure. So this is level 1. Easy level. So Oddpod saying he wants to review some of the older consoles, so he might end up buying them and then selling them. Uh-oh, Angela's saying she's not getting video. I don't know what's going on there. If anybody else is not getting video, let me know in the chat. So it looked like it just kind of went out for a little bit. It's YouTube, yeah. Oh, so Oddpod saying that he recently sold his Atari 7800 box with 20 games. Instant regret, but needed the money. As a collector, I do find it hard to let go of stuff. Yeah. I ended up buying an Atari an Atari 7800 with a bunch of games as well, the one I have now. And I can't remember how much I paid. I bought it off of eBay. I think I paid like 200 bucks or something. I can't remember. But it was a system I really wanted to have. My friend had it when I was growing up. His mom actually won it in a contest. Back before I even knew what it was. I didn't even know there was an Atari 7800 until he won it. And she got it in the mail, and we're like, what is this thing? And we took it downstairs, and we plugged it in, and we started playing it, and we're like, oh, this is like a better Atari, you know? I was used to the 2600, or what was called the VCS at the time. And the cool thing, finding out, was that it's backwards compatible, so it plays Atari 2600 games. Well, most of them anyways. So it's definitely a good thing to own an Atari 7800 if you're into retro video games. Like if you're into Atari stuff. It's better to go for the 7800. I mean, the Atari 5200 is cool too, but there's a lot of problems with it. The joysticks are faulty. You have to use the exact joysticks. I don't know what's going on. I'm dying here. And it's a bulkier system, much bigger, and it's not backwards compatible. It only takes Atari 5200. Oh, jeez. Alright, something's goofy about this level, because I just kept dying on nothing. But I got a high score! Yay! I'm gonna put that in there. $92. Excellent. Yeah. So Oddpod was saying it's a cool system. He might end up getting one again sometime. Want to get a 64. Now, that being said, I don't know if people are aware of it, but there's the C64 Mini that got released. Now, I don't think it got released in Canada, though, or in North America. I think it's only released in Europe. And so, Oddpod, if you're in Europe, I think you are. There's the C64 Mini. Now, the downside is I don't think you can really crack it. I'm not sure if you can or not. And the games on it aren't as good. Or, I don't know. They're not the best games because they have to deal with licensing and stuff like that. So you're not going to get games like Ghostbusters. I don't even think it has Impossible Mission on it. Yeah, so you pretty much have to crack it to play the ROMs and stuff, but whatever. I'm just watching this is a demo, so what you're seeing on the screen is a demo. I'm not actually playing this now. As you can see, I've surrendered my controller. This is just the computer playing with itself. But, yeah, so this has been Space Taxi. I thought this has been a fun one. And, oh, so Oddpod saying he's a nostalgia guy. Very rarely get modern stuff. Yeah, I'm the same way, Oddpod. I'm definitely... So, the funny thing is, to me, this isn't retro. To me, this is video games, right? This is what I grew up with. This is what I played. These are the games I played with. So when I see modern games today, like, you know, things like Halo, or I don't know, most of these modern games, some of these, you know, a lot of the stuff with Switch, I'm like, it just goes over my head. And if it's all three-dimensional, 3D graphics and stuff like that, it's not me. It's not my. It's not a video game to me. I'm not all about the realism. I'm about the gameplay and the fun. And I think a video game should look like a video game. It shouldn't have to look like it's real life. Like that's the whole point of a video game, is just to escape into this world of fun. Not. I don't know. We're gonna get into a point where it's gonna be like the movie Ready Player One, or the book, where we're gonna be living in this world of video games, and it's gonna be reality. And I don't see the point of that. I mean, you might as well be in reality then. So whatever. Anyways, yeah, I think I'm gonna hang it up for the night. It's already oh geez, it's like 10:40 at night for me, and past my bedtime. So I'm gonna have to like cash in here, and I'm glad you guys all came in on the chat. It's been a lot of fun playing this. I haven't decided yet right now what I'm gonna play, but you know, you're always feel free to go into my Facebook page, Brian's Man Cave, or my group on Facebook. I have a group called Retro Gaming and Retro Toys. So if you haven't joined that group, I would highly recommend that. You could probably find it easily if you go on Facebook, or if you go on my Brian's Man Cave page on Facebook, you'll probably find it. And or if you go on Twitter, you'll find my Twitter feed. I also post on there. And feel free to throw some games at me that you'd like to see me play, and if I have them, or if I know about them, or whatever, or if I can emulate them, I'd definitely like to give it a shot. And of course, I also do my regular videos on a regular schedule. Right now, I'm doing it Tuesdays and Thursdays. So the video I just launched yesterday was for my Patreon patron supporter James. He asked to do Star Raiders, which I did. And so I'm doing videos on all my Patreon supporters for supporting the show. So again, if you're interested in that, I have a link below. You're always welcome to support the show, and every little bit helps. But anyways, I'm going to be cutting out now, and thanks everybody for dropping in, and I'm going to try and get some sleep because I'm getting tired. Anyways, talk to you later.